Welcome to this balmy early spring morning in Lititz. It's a privilege to welcome you all here this morning for this press conference to talk about Prioritized PA small business package. And it's a thrill for me to welcome a number of my colleagues from the Pennsylvania State Senate here this morning to Lititz. Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill, who certainly is no stranger to Lancaster County. She ventures across the river with some frequency. I believe Senator Bartolotta has been here previously. I know she was here at least on one tour of the Rock Lititz campus maybe a few years ago. And I do believe this is Senator Judy Ward's first visit. So we have both Senator Ward and Senator Bartolotta from the western part of the state. It's a pleasure to welcome them. We also have with us this morning John Longstreet, who is the president and CEO of Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. John, thank you for being here this morning. Rob Comero, who is the general manager here at Lititz Springs Inn and Spa and the Bull's Head Public House. We're going to hear from Rob momentarily. Tom Baldridge is here this morning. Tom, thanks for making the trip up. Tom's the president and CEO of the Lancaster Chamber of Commerce. And we have Holly Dekarski, who's the executive director of Venture Lititz. Holly, good morning. Thank you for being here. Venture Lititz is doing phenomenal work here in town. And we have, I'll wait for the truck to pass. And we're also joined by Lititz Mayor Tim Snyder. Mayor, thank you for joining us here this morning as well. It's a privilege, as I've said, to be here outside the Lititz Inn and Spa and the Bull's Head. Certainly for folks that are from Lititz or the surrounding areas, they're very accustomed to just an outstanding establishment that this is here. If we're to restore, rebuild, and reimagine a stronger Pennsylvania, we must prioritize Pennsylvania's small business. My colleagues and I are here this morning in Lititz to briefly highlight legislation that we are introducing to do just that, to provide the tax, fee, and regulatory relief our small businesses and our small towns who've been so negatively and disproportionately impacted by COVID mitigation efforts so desperately need in order to recover. As I said in Lancaster last week at the opening of our new mass vaccination clinic, I do believe that a spring of hope, despite the weather this morning, a spring of hope is upon us. The COVID infection rate is down. The COVID hospitalization rate is down. Deaths are down. The vaccination supply and access to vaccination is increasing and projected to increase dramatically over the next number of weeks. And legislative efforts by the Senate Republican caucus to prioritize Pennsylvania small businesses are well underway. A number of weeks ago, I circulated co-sponsorship for legislation that I'll just briefly highlight and turn over. One, to allow businesses who were impacted by Governor Wolf's shutdown order or his business restrictions during the COVID-19 pandemic to deduct their property taxes from their state net income or state corporate net income or CNI or personal income tax liability, to waive state fees for retail food and liquor licenses for restaurants and bars that were forced to shut down during Governor Wolf's emergency orders. Third, allow, and I know Senator Bartolotta has worked extensively in this space as well, to allow normally profitable businesses that experience a pandemic-related loss in 2020 to offset earnings from prior years or future years against current year losses and get refunds for prior years or cut future tax bills. The program would sunset in 3 years to allow time for struggling businesses to get back on their feet. And then third, create a temporary business improvement tax credit. I'm excited about this innovative approach, and we're working through the details of this, that's essentially modeled off the highly successful Education Improvement Tax Credit, or EITC program, that would allow businesses who've done well during the pandemic to make a donation directly to assist struggling small businesses in return for a tax credit worth 50% of their donation. The program would be capped at $500 million, resulting in $1 billion provided to struggling restaurants, bars, and small businesses in the Commonwealth, and would expire after 2 years. Again, encouraging those who've done well over the last year to support those businesses that have struggled over the last year. It's now my pleasure to ask my colleague, Senator Camera Bartolotta, to come to the podium and discuss some of the work, some of the legislation that she's working on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Oh, I might want to keep this on just for warmth, but I'm taking it off right now. Thank you so much, Senator Aument, for inviting us to this beautiful town of Lititz to advocate for the businesses that make up the backbone of our economy. I actually was a small business owner for 31 years back home, and understand and appreciate how very difficult it is just to make the bottom line in a good year, much less a pandemic year. Each one of these small businesses is precious. It represents not just a part of the community, but the livelihood for each family who runs the business and the amazing people that they employ. This is what we are fighting for. This is why we are here, to make sure that this way of life does not disappear. This is an issue that I am passionate about because I know what it's like to run a small business, to go through the tough times, to struggle to make ends meet and cover payroll during the slowest business periods of the year. Unfortunately, for small employers like these, the entire past year has been bad for business. What these small employers and their workers have endured over the past year is unimaginable. 2 weeks to flatten a curve turned into a year to flatten the economy. The lifeblood of our economy is draining out on main streets just like this one. And this is our favorite song. I love that sound. Trucks delivering goods to people who are back in business. That's a wonderful sound. Don't think it's a bad thing, even right now. Streets just like this. The lifeblood of our economy is draining out. And not just here, but places like Denora and Waynesburg and Aliquippa, towns that I represent back home across the state. The question is, how do we stop the bleeding? How do we fix what's broken? It starts with prioritizing Pennsylvania small business, not treating them like an afterthought, or worse yet, a piggy bank to be broken by the governor with his new spending schemes. The bill I sponsored with my good friend and colleague, Senator Judy Ward, will help reverse the damage caused by the governor and the pandemic by offering immediate tax relief to impacted employers. It means that if a business owner sold property or equipment just to make payroll or keep the lights on, they can deduct the business loss against their tax bill. It means that we level the playing field by allowing small businesses to take net operating losses like their larger competitors. It gets cash into the hands of small businesses quicker without creating a new grant or loan program. We're proposing to temporarily allow those businesses to carry back losses to previous tax years. That is what this proposal is all about. It not only offers a hand up to small employers who are struggling, but also creates an environment in which they can thrive and grow for many years to come. So I want to thank everyone who's standing here with me, and I want to thank the people that I've met over the last 2 days, because I chose to come out to Lititz 2 days before this press conference because I've heard so many amazing things about this wonderful town and the people in it, the people who work here and live here. 2 nights ago, I was blessed to go to Gibraltar and met with the owners, Sal and Gina. They were incredibly generous and kind, and our server, Graham, a young gentleman who kept up with my husband and his vocabulary. But the first thing that Graham said when I said, "How you doing?" he said, "I am grateful to be working." And that's just what small business is. He is grateful to be able to work. They don't want handouts. They want to open their doors and get back to work, to provide for their families, to be part of the community again. And that is what this whole initiative is all about. So thank you very much for doing this, Senator Aument. And it is my great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill.
Thank you, Senator Bartolotta, and thank you, Senator Aument, the fine folks at Bull's Tavern, and the gracious people of Lititz for hosting us here this morning. I'm State Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill, and I have the honor of representing the 28th District in York County. And we are here today to chart a new course and put forward an action plan to help our small businesses get back on their feet. And our small businesses have had to bear the brunt of the second most restrictive economic shutdown in the nation. And if they could survive as a small business under this governor's unilateral decisions for the last year, well, they can probably survive anything. But we don't only want our small businesses to survive, we want them to thrive. This package of bills not only prioritizes Pennsylvania's small businesses to get back on track and provide much needed assistance now, but we're also proposing major policy changes to implement long-term solutions, including providing long overdue regulatory relief and reform. Regulations are a self-made problem that are in part the result of choices made by the legislative branch of government. And as a result, state agencies develop rules and regulations that place new burdens on small businesses. We must reverse this trend of growing regulations and the negative impact that it has on our economy. Senate Bill 32 legislation that I am sponsoring will help streamline and provide greater oversight of our regulatory process in Pennsylvania. Burdensome regulations, they frustrate our small business owners and their employees. And this comprehensive proposal provides a way to eliminate burdensome regulations and requires that all state agencies post the permitting process on their respective websites. An independent review of our state's regulatory system found that we have over 150,000 individual regulations on our books, and that total grows each passing year. Establishing an independent office of the repealer whose sole focus is to review and eliminate archaic and duplicative regulations over a 6-year period will help reverse this trend and prevent small business owners from being buried in mountains of red tape. That comprehensive review into our tens of thousands of regulations will assist our small business owners that call Pennsylvania home. And it's time that we prioritize their needs, not out-of-state interests. Our small businesses are our economy's backbone, and instead of dangling costly taxpayer incentives to get businesses to relocate to Pennsylvania, let's fix our regulatory climate to help our small businesses that are here now. That's what our vision is here today, to prioritize Pennsylvania's small businesses. And with that, I am very pleased to introduce my good friend and colleague, Senator Judy Ward.
Good morning, everyone, and what a pleasure to be here in Lititz. I, too, had the pleasure of staying at the Lititz Springs Inn last evening and got to experience Lititz, and it's such a beautiful community. I'm Judy Ward from Blair County and the 30th Legislative District, and it's such a pleasure to be here. The COVID-19 crisis has had a dramatic impact on our small employers across the Commonwealth. These businesses are an essential component of our state's economy, and they need help to survive. Small employers are the backbone of our economy. For years, when large employers would close up shop and relocate, these are the businesses who stayed and committed to our communities. We now owe them the same support. The effects of month-long business closures have been catastrophic, with some being forced to close their doors indefinitely, and others struggling to reopen under the current restrictions. Many small employers had been profitable for years are now seeing losses that are entirely COVID-19 related. Small shops, mom and pop operations do not have massive amounts of savings, and they are holding on by a thread. We cannot allow these families to lose everything they've worked so hard for. This package of bills will prioritize Pennsylvania's small businesses. And now I would like to introduce Lititz Springs Inn and Bull's Head Public House Manager Rob Camaro. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Rob Camaro. I am the general manager here at the Lititz Springs Inn and Bull's Head Public House. Thank you to all the senators for coming out today and all of you for being part of this. You know, it's super important as we wrap up this last year. This property itself has experienced 51% decrease in revenue across all the property. We have many outlets. And I think it's greatly appreciated what legislators are doing when they're bringing awareness to the issues that we have in all the small towns across the Commonwealth. And the more we talk about it and the more smart legislation we have, it's just another piece of the puzzle for businesses to get back up and remain successful. So hopefully we can keep it going, right? Yeah. Okay. So thank you all very much. I would like to take a minute to introduce John Longstreet. He is the CEO for the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, and a huge advocate for our industry particularly. I think everybody's starting to become aware that restaurants and hospitality and tourism have been some of the hardest hit. And we make up a large demographic of small business in the Commonwealth. So their efforts are also greatly appreciated. So I'll give it back to Senator Aument, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Rob. And again, Tom and John, thank you so much for being here and not just your support, but certainly the feedback that you provide, the input that you provide to the legislative process and the legislation that we've offered. So again, I want to thank you all for being here this morning. For the media that are here, I know the members are more than happy to talk about their legislation, any questions they may have. But again, thank you so much for being here, and have a wonderful day.